Hi, my name is Jay. Welcome to my channel. In 2022, I thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail and carried quite a bit of electronics. So today, let's go over the electronics I brought. Just kind of rough outline. Pretty much I carried everything that I originally mentioned in my electronics video before I started thru-hike. So I'll put a link to that up here, and then you can just go to that whenever you'd like. And I'll put a link in the description and you can go to that to see what electronics I brought. Today I'll talk about what I thought about the electronics I brought as far as carrying it that entire distance. As most of you know, I'm the crazy person that brought along 2 cameras plus my cell phone, and one of the cameras was a full frame Sony a7 IV plus a Tamron 28-200 lens. Together it came to about 3 pounds, and then I put an external microphone on it as well, so it came to a little over 3 pounds. And of course I felt that wasn't heavy enough, so I put a polarizer / ND filter on the front, and that added even more weight. And it also required a bigger lens cap, so that would weigh more. So it was quite hefty, and quite often if you met me on trail, I'd probably be like, hey, you want to hold my camera, see how heavy it is? Because it was quite heavy. I was shocked. Oftentimes I'd pick it up and be like, I was wearing this on my chest this whole time? That's crazy. But I thought the quality of the pictures and video from this camera that I'm using right now was just so much better than what I could have done with the cell phone or the GoPro. GoPro videos are great for stabilization, but the video quality is there. It's good, but it just doesn't have the warm feeling. It's great for when everything's in focus outdoors, but it just wasn't the same. But so it was great. I was really happy to bring a Sony. The problem, of course, is when you have a heavy camera, you need a tripod that can support that weight. And unfortunately, I decided to bring a big heavy camera. This is a carbon fiber tripod. The ball head, I actually like the ball head. I brought this along with me on my Arizona trail hike, and the ball head was good enough and it's light. But then I realized I want something quicker, because I hate mounting a camera to a ball head where you got a screw. That's just more time. You got to put it on, take it off. I wanted something that'll just snap in. And I had this. This is a Mantis Pod tripod. It's like a selfie stick, and it collapses down and you can use it like a selfie stick. But what I did was I just took this off. That pops right off, and you can screw it right on top of the normal tripod. So it becomes like this weird hybrid tripod, which is part PGYTECH, part Aoka. And with this, fortunately, I can just take the camera and I could snap it right on. The plate on the camera is for the PGYTECH Beetle Clip, which I wore on my shoulder strap. And that allowed it so I can carry it on my shoulder strap, and I could just pop it off, pull out this tripod, and I could just snap it in place. One thing amazing is I carried this tripod actually almost 3,000 miles, and even now, once I loosen him, mostly slides right out. Pretty nice. There are all kinds of dirt, water, rain, ice. Everything works really well. Pretty happy with this tripod. Here is my PGYTECH chest clip. It just kind of goes through a shoulder pad here and clips right on. And this is my GoPro. I actually have the GoPro mount for it, and this is directly mounted. If I went with other clip-on companies, I would have to get a tripod mount and then the clip mount. So mounts right on, and it's nice and secure. And there's a button on the side used to press, and up it goes. And this also will mount on this tripod. You just put it on and you just push down, or you can use this lever to open it, but you can just, and it's locked in place. It's not, well, it's pretty secure, but for safety's sake, there is a little lever here, and you can push it, and it kind of tightens it so it won't budge, and you won't accidentally push this button and drop it. And that was it. So you can do whatever you like. So I was really happy with this combination. If you look at this tripod closely, let's see if you can see it. It's been through a lot. I don't know how many times I dropped it or I put it on the ground and leaned it on something and fell over, but it's pretty scuffed up. It's oh yeah, that's a good one right there. It's been through a lot, but it still works great. The ball head, once you release it, still pretty smooth. You think it'd be a lot of dust in there and sweat, but overall, great tripod. And oddly enough, I did bring a little Allen wrench because I've had tripods where the legs get loose over time. And these did not at all throughout the entire Arizona Trail and Appalachian Trail. So good on them for making a good tripod. And the top part worked out really well. My Allen wrench also fit on the bottom of the camera that has a plate similar to this, and it's tightened in with an Allen wrench. And on the Arizona Trail, I carried a Peak Design chest clip with that whole system, and every once in a while, if you just like twist the camera, it would just get loose, and you need an Allen wrench to really tighten it so it wouldn't come off again. But PGYTECH, they have this weird technology in their plates where you can spin it and it just doesn't get loose. It's actually quite amazing. I actually disassembled it just to take a look at what's going on and how it's happening, but it's pretty clever. So I really enjoyed this shoulder clip. The only downside with this shoulder clip is I will show you here. Once all the padding in my shoulder strap kind of got thinner because of the compression, I had to go to another bracket. But as you can see here, it sticks up, and that started poking me in the shoulder. So what I had to do was I actually bought some knee pads at Walmart, like volleyball knee pads, to make the gap bigger, and I tightened it, and then it goes down smooth. So it's all smooth all across the top. So the extra padding I bought, I just shoved in there and tightened it, and that worked out great to fix my problem. The other reason I like this mount better than Peak Designs is the back has angular corners. There are like 5 angular corners, but this is all smooth. And on the Arizona Trail, I actually developed a weird callus on my shoulder from the side of the clip digging into my shoulder. But with this, I went over basically almost 3 times the distance, but I had no callus, nothing. It was just fine because it was nice and smooth on the back. It's got its pros and cons, but overall I did enjoy using the PGYTECH clip more than I did the Peak Designs. It costs about the same. Another reason I went with the PGYTECH mount is it has a little like a ball head right here. So you can actually, if you can see the angle on it, there's an angle because previously on the PCT I had a shoulder mount that was a clipped on, and it would always shoot to the left. So when I hiked, I actually turned my body a little to the right to try to keep it straight. With this, it can be tight against your chest with the shoulder strap, and it actually points straight. Otherwise, if it was straight, it would actually point to the left all the time. So I'm pointing at the camera is pointing this way. So that's one thing to consider. A lot of people are bringing GoPros as well, and if you clip it onto your shoulder, it's going to point off to the side, so you have to make sure it kind of tilts. You can't clip it on the middle, but I find when you're hiking, the chest strap kind of, there's slack and it's tight, slack tight, and it shakes the camera too much, so you don't want to do that. But yeah, I really like this mounting system, and it worked out great for my thru hike. This is my GoPro 10. I love this for vlogging. If you're going to do any kind of walking and talking, I think it's important to have really good stabilization, because I always felt if people are going to spend the time to watch my videos, I don't want to make them sick or dizzy. I want to give them nice smooth video, as good a quality as I can get it. It's just in the dark, it's not the best, but there's not too many cameras that work well in the dark, so it is what it is. And I did get this windscreen that fits right over the GoPro right here. It just fits around the whole thing and just covers the mic holes So when there's wind, it's reasonable and blocks out a good portion of it, way better than if it didn't have it. And I also put this little bungee here because I found without it, when wind came from the front, it would lift it up and the air would get in and the air would get picked up on the mic. So I did that, so that kind of holds it in place better and works great overall. So this is the weird GoPro I had, little bungee wrapped around it, and it's a touchscreen back here, but I had this thing there, but yeah, it worked great. And if you're going to take a GoPro and you intend on going in the winter, definitely buy the Enduro batteries, those little white ones. I have found the white ones will last normally in like 20-degree temperatures, no problem. They run like normal batteries, but the regular ones will die very quickly. As soon as it gets in the cold, the voltage drops so much that you'd think you have to replace them, but Enduros, way to go. I did take 2 with me on trail, and I used all of them quite often, but I was always wanting to pull out the Enduros, especially if you're going to record in 4K. The Enduros last a lot longer in 4K than the standard GoPro batteries. But I would definitely recommend investing in the Enduro batteries if you are going to take a GoPro with you, and if you're going to be out there in extreme cold. But even if you're not going in extreme cold, they just last longer in 4K than the standard batteries. So I think it's worth it to go with the Enduros. Originally, I did start off with 4 GoPro batteries, but I sent 1 home because I think 3 extras worked out well. If I had a day I was happy with as far as vlogging quantity, I would go through 1 Enduro battery in 2 days. And I was happy with that. The blue normal batteries, it would take a day and a half to a day and a third. So with 2 Enduro batteries, I can last 4 days. And then with a couple more blue ones, I can last another 2 days. So 6 days, you weren't really away from town super long. And there were a couple times I did have to use my battery bank to charge a GoPro battery while out in the field to maintain the battery so I can keep going another day. And it's always nice to have 1 battery that's fully charged, easily accessible, not buried somewhere. So if you run out of battery, you can just pop it open. I always kept 1 extra in my hip pack with, it was always 1 extra Sony battery and 1 GoPro battery. Just always charged right there, so if something happens, I can just pop in a new one and take care of the old ones later. So each morning, that was part of the deal, is I always had to have 1 fully charged battery of each in my hip pocket. And at night, I would always take out the old battery that I had put away and put it in my used battery bag in my electronics kit. Of course, the other bit of electronics I had was my phone. I kept this in a neoprene sleeve, and I kept it in my fanny pack closer to my body. Never had any issues. Did scratch it once. Nothing happened to it. Oddly enough, it got, well, it didn't take the damage. The screen protector did. But on the Arizona Trail, I dropped a fuel canister with a stove attached, and it whacked the screen. But I had a screen protector installed, and that took the brunt of the chip. Well, it took all the chip, so. But good old phone. This is how I edited all my videos. It's an Android Samsung S21. I used Power Director and worked out pretty well. It's 256 gigs of storage on there, and I had to constantly recycle storage just to keep it empty. So as I uploaded videos and I compiled everything into folders correctly, I copied them onto little hard drives I had, and it worked out great. Only problem is Power Director doesn't seem to enjoy 4K videos on, at least on my phone. It crashed so often. Probably took me twice as long to edit every video than I could have, but I wanted to record everything in 4K, so when I got home I can have all this 4K footage and I could just put it all together and do whatever I want with it. And with 4K you can kind of zoom in and out if you're rendering a 1080p video. So a 1080p video is like about this size here in the corner, my arm. So 4K would be much bigger. I worked in IT, and I have seen many hard drives fail throughout my career. So when I wanted to vlog this, I wanted to keep all the data extra secure with absolute redundancy, at least double redundant or one redundancy. So I bought these 3 drives. Do you see them? They're Samsung T5s, I believe. Yes. I heard the T7s have a problem overheating, so I bought the T5s. I originally started with 2 1 terabytes, and I was going to duplicate the data. So if I copy data here, I copy data here as well. But then I realized, you know what? I need more, so I bought this 2 terabyte. So I carried all these in the beginning, or I actually had one in a resupply box at home here. And I carried this and this one. And basically every time I copied data, it was on here and it was on here. And once that the data was on both devices, I deleted it off my phone. So there were always at least 2 copies on the phone. Well, most of the time on the phone, there weren't 2 copies because if I recorded with the phone, but there was always a copy on the GoPro storage card and the camera storage card. And once I copied it to both of these, I got them off the phone, and I eventually recycled the SD cards, micro SD cards, as long as there were 2 copies here. And then, so I made sure that there was always redundancy. And once I filled one up, I mailed it home and kept working with the second 1 terabyte and the rest of this 2 terabyte here. And if I needed old footage, like at my final video where I summited Katahdin, I had a whole bunch of old footage compiled together. So I had a 2 terabyte here to do that. And I calculated that I was going to produce a good amount less than 2 terabytes. I figured less than 2, so I thought I'd be safe. And at the end, I recorded, and with the editing, the finalized videos and everything, came to about 1.67 terabytes. So basically, I did need this, and I did need the 2 1 terabytes. I should have just started with 2 terabytes though, but I did need them. A lot of people are using SD cards now, I guess, and I guess that would work as well, but these are pretty fast. Now that's the reason it drew me to them, because when I'm copying data to these hard drives, I can't charge my phone at the same time unless I have a wireless charger. So I wanted to do something that's much quicker. On the Arizona Trail, I had this old SD card adapter, and the copying was so slow, it just slowed me down. So got some nice speedy hard drives, but this is how I backed up all my data. By the way, it's USB Type-C. It just plugs right into my phone with USB Type-C. The same cables I use to charge my battery banks and everything else, so easy. I don't have my battery banks here with me, but I did carry 2 Nitecore batteries in the beginning. One a 10 amp hour, one a 20 amp hour. I thought I would need both of them because I remember on the Arizona Trail I was pretty tight sometimes, but on the Arizona Trail I was using my phone to record most of the video as far as when I was moving, and then my camera for steady shots. But here I was using a GoPro for when I was moving, so I was only using my phone to, watch a video here and there and edit the videos. So I didn't need to charge my phone nearly as much as I thought I would. So I dropped off my 20 and bought another 10 because I like to have 2. That way if I'm editing somewhere, I can use one to charge and charge the battery while I'm editing. I always like to have 2 for redundancy. And the 2 10s is actually lighter than 1 20. You can believe it. And also, the 2 10s charge at 18 watts each. The 20 charges at 30 watts. So charging 2 of them is actually faster than charging 1 20. And that all worked out great. So Nitecore 10 amp hour batteries, 2 of them, that's what I wound up with at the end. And the last of my electronics was the wall charger. I also don't have it. I gave it to my niece because she recently got an iPhone for Christmas and she needed a USB Type-C charger. That worked great. It was the same one I had in the introduction video. And I also bought one for Tina and she used it and it worked fine for her. In fact, funny story, I thought I bought her a USB Type-C to Lightning cable. Thought I bought her a 2-foot one for some reason, but I didn't look closely enough. I bought a 2-meter cable for her. So I apologize because it was so long, but she actually preferred it because it was nice to be able to plug it into a wall and you could sit back in bed and you still can connect. There was one vlogger for 2023. I saw their recent gear. I think it was a woman, but she had a 6-foot cable and she was rationalizing why she needed it. And there were a few times I really could use a 6-foot cable. I think there was one hostel where the plug was towards the feet. I don't know why. So you can actually run it up and use it. Otherwise, like you have to edit videos and then you have to bend over and plug it in and you can't work anymore or turn around. But so 6-foot cables, it's a little heavier than a 3-foot, but it might be good for you. Before I close out this video about my electronics, I forgot a few key items. So I just want to talk through them. The first of which is this item. It's a thermometer. It's a little Bluetooth thermometer. It actually logs temperatures throughout the day, I believe like every 10 seconds or so. And then it keeps it stored in its body. And then when you connect it to your phone, you can pull all the data off. And this is what I use to get all the temperature readings throughout the day and night. And overall, it worked really well. It's quite small, as you can see. It's very light. I forget the exact weights, but the battery lasted the entire time. And I did have it in the back of my, like in the mesh of my backpack during the day. And although it got wet, it still functioned fine. You're not supposed to get it soaking wet because the hygrometer, the humidity reader, will get affected. So overall, I mean, it held up really well considering I took it out of my backpack and almost every night kind of tossed it to the corner of my tent because I didn't want it in the middle of my tent because that's going to be warmer. So I always kind of toss it to the outside corner of my tent. And I still have it. I keep it here. I just like logging temperatures throughout the days. And overall, I would carry this again in future hikes just to, I don't know, just for statistics. I love keeping the statistics. I might try to figure out a way to keep it protected from the sun though, because sometimes when the sun hits the back, I think that it did spike up a little bit in temperature. But overall, worked great. So I would definitely get it. There are 2 versions on Amazon. One is made in USA and one's made in China. And I heard someone told me that his made in USA one had problems, but I heard the one made in China had a lot more problems. So this one does cost more, but it's a little more durable than the made in China version. Another item I don't have here with me in Germany. I filmed all this before coming out here, but I forgot to talk about my headlamp. So it was the Nitecore NU25. Worked like a champ. I didn't really do any night hiking. I just mostly use it for tent when I was closing out my videos so I could film myself in the dark. And the only night hiking I did was really the morning of Katahdin because we left super early and it was really dark. But overall, I never had to charge it while in use because I didn't use it long term. It's a incredibly bright headlamp for what it is, but it will use up your battery pretty quickly if you use it in highest setting. But mine, I bought it before the Arizona Trail, and I use it all through car life in 2019, all through whatever I did in 2020. I had a couple months of car life, mostly traveling around. And then in 2021, I used it on the Arizona Trail, and then also Tina then used it for the entire CDT, and then all throughout the AT for me. So I purchased it in the beginning of 2019. So I've had it for over 3 years and it's working great. I have no reason to replace it if I was going to do another long hike. Like this year's backpacking trips we're planning, I'm going to bring it because it's still working perfectly fine and the functions are exactly what I need. On the AT, I believe it's very important that you have 2 buttons where one could turn on the red light right away and one white light later. Because when you're in a shelter, you don't want to be flicking through your lights trying to get to the red light. You just want to be able to hit one button and hit that red light right away. So I think the NU25 is it's a very popular headlamp for the AT, and I think for all the right reasons. Another item I didn't mention is the InReach. I started with the original InReach Explorer, which weighed 7 ounces, and I had trouble with it. I couldn't get the firmware update to install with my phone and the app. It just didn't work. And I worked in IT and I tried what I could. So I decided I'm just going to get a new one. At a certain point, it seemed like for the last 2 years, during certain times of the year, it just couldn't send up signals as well, as if the satellite data wasn't wrong on the device. So it was trying to reach satellites that weren't above us at that time. So it just didn't work and I couldn't get reliable track. So I upgraded to the InReach Mini 2, and I probably should have done that before the hike. First off, it's half the weight at 3.5 ounces. And with the original as well as the InReach Mini, you use the EarthMate app to access it with your phone. And at least on Android, I had various problems with it. Like sometimes I'll send a message with it and it'll go out twice, and it just does, it was slow, wasn't the best. But with the InReach Mini 2, it uses the Garmin Explorer app, and that seems to work like you would expect any app to work, which is the way it's supposed to. So I find that app to be much better. The mapping is just the same as EarthMate. It's just the messaging and the communication with the Garmin seems to be a lot better than the original. So the InReach Mini 2, I'm very happy with it, and I will carry it on all the future backpacking trips I go on. Just I didn't bring it here because I'm just living in Germany in a city. So, but it's worked really well. And the battery, yeah, I did have to recharge it several times, like per Lego trip, but I was sending tracks every 10 minutes. So all my Patreons could track me as I was hiking, as well as my parents and family. They could all kind of track me as I go. But one thing about InReach is I contemplated, if you're hiking by yourself and you slip and fall and you hit your head, people aren't really, you're not going to be hitting a 911, you're not going to be hitting SOS on it. So you might just kind of disappear. So I find if you have people that really worry about you, or if you don't want to just disappear and you hike by yourself a lot, turn on tracking. Maybe not 10 minutes, maybe like 30 minutes. That way, if someone says, hey, this person hasn't called back in 2 days, they can look at your tracking and see that you haven't moved for 2 days, and they'll know that that's your last location. So I think that's a lot safer way to go than just, some people keep it off to save battery. They say they're going to turn it on and hit SOS when they need to. And that may work most of the time, but again, if you ever hit your head and you're just out, that's not going to be an option for you. So I don't know, think about that. And the last thing I want to talk about before closing out this video here is the lens I brought. This may look a little smaller because I don't have the ND filter, which is making it stick out even more. But I want to point out that when you use a chest plate to carry your camera and stuff like that, you'll actually get a little wear on your lens where it's rubbing against your either your shoulder strap or your chest. But there was a little wear here. I don't know if you noticed in some of my videos, I had two rubber bands, thick rubber bands going across the top. And what I did was I put the rubber bands there to try to help absorb some of that abrasion. And once I saw that, I put the rubber bands there. I don't know how much it helped, but I think it probably did help though. And every once in a while a rubber band would break, and then I would actually find another rubber band somewhere and then just put it over and just kind of try to help protect the lens, but it does wear out some. What I have here is an ND filter with a polarizer. It's a variable ND filter, so you can spin it and it can darken up or lighten. In fact, let me just cover the lens and I'll give you a quick example. See how darker I am? Actually, my ISO went up, so the quality of the video might get grainy and you'll see got a little brighter. But the purpose of this is to stop as much light going into the camera. And I had this on most of the time on my camera because when you record video, it helps things look smoother. But the main reason I brought this is because of all the water cascades and waterfalls throughout the AT. There's so many of them. And if you kind of need one of these to be able to get the smooth water effect. Because sometimes you need maybe 2, 3, 4 seconds of the lens open to get that smooth effect. And if you did that without an ND filter, you would just get white. It would just be super bright. And the ND filter, if you really want to get into photography and you're going to get a big camera with you on the AT, I would recommend bringing an ND filter. I also opted for the one with the polarizer built in because that helped reduce reflections off the lakes. I found some of the waterfall pictures look way better without the reflections, and you could see the stones in the creek bed below. It just showed off the colors a lot more. And also there were some fish and newts to record video of, and without a polarizer it would have just been a big reflection. So that was really nice to have. So although it weighed quite a bit and it made it much bigger, I think I was definitely happy to bring this with me. Before I go on to the closing out video portion, I just want to talk to everyone about the importance of lithium plating. I mentioned it in my electronics video before I started thru hike, but I'll mention it again. So lithium ion batteries, or if you try to charge it when it's freezing or below, lithium will deposit on, I forget offhand, it's cathode or anode, but the lithium will collect on there and it'll actually just kind of grow, and it actually reduces the total capacity of a lithium battery. So say you have a battery bank that's 10,000 amp hour or 10 amp hour. If you come into a hostel from freezing temperatures and then you immediately plug it into the wall, the lithium plating would occur and you won't know it, but it could be reducing the capacity. So you could be carrying around a 9 amp hour battery when you thought it was a 10, and you could also be damaging your phone. So my recommendation, if it's anywhere near freezing or below, when you get somewhere, before you charge any of your devices, like in a tent even, put it in a pocket, keep it against your body, warm it up before you charge it. I think that's very important, very important. So your phone, if you're out in the field and your phone needs to be charged from your battery bank, put it against your body while you eat, keep it against something warm until it's, not freezing, but a little warmer. Like the InReach, I did have to charge that at least every 2 days, and I would put it in one of my pockets and just let it be warm, get warmed up before I charged it. And while it was charging, I kept it in my quilt just to keep it warm while it was charging. So it's very important. Don't charge any of your things while it's freezing or below. And not much really changed. I still had the SD card reader that's USB Type-C that plugs into my phone, copy data at a great speed. It worked just fine. Fortunately, I didn't have any problems with it and had to try to replace it or anything like that. That was my fear, is having to replace really specific items on trail, and I'd have to order it like a week ahead into a town, so I'd be without it for a while. But overall, everything worked great. So overall, I thought the electronics were great. I learned that enduros are definitely the way to go, and I learned that a full frame camera with a huge zoom lens is quite heavy. But I thought it was worth it. And I hope you enjoyed the quality of the videos and footage as well. I have since then bought a new lens. It's a 20mm, so it can get a little wider angle. Not a zoom one, but I think it's going to be really nice for further vlogging because it's lighter, smaller, wider angle field of view. And it has a bigger aperture, so I'm hoping to get really good like astrophotography pictures. I have used the 28 to 200 Tamron before to try to get pictures of Milky Ways, and it looked great, but with the, it's really complicated. I don't know if you really want me to go into it, but with the amount of time I had to keep the shutter open, you can see stars, you can see star trails, and I really wanted something with a faster lens and a wider angle lens, and this lens was rated really well. But in future hikes, I think I'm still going to take the 28 to 200. I wish there was a 24 to 200, but the 28 I thought worked great for me. It's just like one of the things I love taking pictures of is wildlife, and if there's a bird somewhere, I hate having to try to sneak up on him with a lens that just doesn't zoom in and getting this tiny little picture of a bird. So I was happy to get something with much more zoom, and the quality I thought was pretty good. It's just quite heavy is all. But overall, all the electronics worked great, and throughout the whole trail, I did send home my Sony camera towards the very end once I hurt my leg, because I just wanted to cut weight so that I finish on time with Tina. That was the priority at that point, and shaving off that plus the extra Sony batteries and the charger, it came to about 4 pounds. And considering some people's base weights are under 10 pounds. 4 pounds is a lot to just dump off, but it's heavy. If it's your first through hike, you may not want to carry all that extra weight. But if you've done it before, you kind of know what you need, so you can get rid of all the stuff you don't need, and then you carry something to give you a little higher quality that you would appreciate. I didn't want any regrets not having this tools to do what I wanted to do. So for the most part, I was pretty happy. I wish it has a slightly wider lens, like I mentioned, but I thought it worked out great, and I was glad I carried both the GoPro and the Sony throughout the entire trail. And that's basically it for all my electronics. Everything, pretty much for most of my stuff, you'll find that I use the same things that I started with, mostly because I have been backpacking quite a bit, so I know what works, I know what I can carry, and overall, it stayed the same. There were a few challenges with various items that I had to figure out, like the PGYTECH clip getting loose, and it also cut one of the straps because the bottom part was sharp for some reason. I don't know why. So I am going to Dremel that down before I use it for next long hike. So this is the bottom of the chest clip, and if you look here, this is it's not very sharp, but it's a sharp corner. There's no reason for that to be sharp. It should be curved. So I am going to try to Dremel it down smooth so it doesn't cut any other straps in the future. If you have any questions about my electronics, feel free to comment and ask questions down below, and I will get back to you. I've been a little busy the last month, as well, from late December through January, as you all may know. And as of record date, I am going to Germany in 1 week, so I'm trying to get everything done and the situation finalized with my father and my mom's businesses. So it's been busy, but thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. If you have further questions, I have more electronics than most people on a thru hike would ever carry. So if you're interested in doing something similar, feel free to comment below and I'll answer your questions. I love talking gear, so I will talk endlessly to you. I can't talk gear to Tina unless I want to put her to sleep, so you know. All right, thanks for watching, y'all. Have a good night. Bye.